Fiber is essential for good health because it keeps you regular, but it also feeds your good gut bugs, which boost your immunity, cuts your appetite, improves your blood sugar control and lowers cholesterol levels. Not only that, fiber can help you keep a healthy waistline and dramatically lower your risk of getting chronic conditions like diabetes, heart disease and some cancers. Telecommuting means working away from the central workplace, often at home. It can be for short periods or part of a long-term arrangement, and can occur on set days or arranged as the work demands. There should be a dedicated work area where employees are undisturbed. All the equipment and resources needed to do the job safely should be accessible. Humans have been exploring the cosmos for nearly 60 years, but in all that time we haven't found evidence of life in our solar system, outside of our own planet. Scientists still think other lifeforms might be out there, but some of the best possible habitats are hidden below thick crusts of ice on moons like Europa. Our blood group is determined by the presence or absence of inherited proteins, found on the surface of red blood cells. These molecules are the result of contributions from both of our parents. About 30 different substances can be found on the surface of any given blood cell. An individual's blood type is one of many possible combinations of antigens. Scientists have just uncovered a massive 85-mile-long cold water coral reef deep in the Atlantic Ocean off South Carolina's coast. The discovery was made last week during a series of dives as part of a project called Deep Search involving the research. A team of deep-sea scientists embarked on the expedition about a half-mile below the surface and 160 miles off the coast. A leading Australian space law expert has warned conflict over space assets is inevitable, and more needs to be done now to avert the potential for hostility. The US government and American firms continue to play a dominant role in more traditional space technology development and deployment. SpaceX, for example, is a major private supplier of rockets. Osaka Castle was originally constructed in the late 1500s, an infamous warlord famed for uniting all of Japan's provinces under his one rule. Centuries of war and natural disasters have seen the castle leveled and rebuilt several times over the year, but it still retains its original majesty and mystery. Inside you'll find a museum, and a higher observation deck boasts 360-degree views. The websites went dark in Europe after the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, law came into force on the 25th of May. GDPR gives EU citizens more rights over how their information is used. A statement on the blocked website says the publishers are committed to looking at options to allow EU access. News sites within the Tronc and Lee Enterprises media publishing groups are affected. The Bureau of Meteorology is warning residents of Perth, Bunbury, and Albany, as well as much of the rest of southwest Western Australia, to buckle up and stay safe on Wednesday as a deep low rolls through from the Indian Ocean. The passage of a strong cold front and deep low will result in the potential for severe weather conditions. The world's richest countries are increasingly outsourcing their carbon pollution to China and other rising economies, according to a draft UN report. Outsourcing of emissions comes in the form of electronic devices such as smartphones, cheap clothes and other goods manufactured in China and other rising economies but consumed in the US and Europe. Telstra has been criticised by a consumer group after more than 20 Indigenous Australians were left with a total of $90,000 in debt, when sales staff at one of its branded retail outlets in Western Australia sold them plans they could not afford. This year, the Australian Communications Consumer Action Network was contacted by a financial planner. Like her policies or not, Bishop has racked up some impressive achievements in her career. She's been an MP since 1998 and became deputy leader of the Liberals in 2007, at the end of the Howard. She stuck around through 3 different leaders. She's got the hang of diplomacy. The stage of the process that begins to execute the recommendations in the marketing plan is called the implementation phase. This may involve a number of different team members in a larger organization, or may rest with one marketing executive, in small organizations. The process of monitoring progress against objectives provides a means to control. It's one of the world's 2 best-loved flavors, and demand for it is increasing all the time. But now its future in the global food industry could be more secure, thanks to research at the University of Nottingham's Malaysia campus. The orchid is a tropical, climbing vine originally cultivated by ancient Central American civilizations. Independent supermarkets might be able to reclaim customers by sharing marketing and buying power to offer good prices on more interesting stock than the big players. IGAs, for example, regularly promote local and specialist products, particularly in the artisan and fresh food categories, from suppliers that don't have the scale and resources to get into the massive chains. By implementing a culture of innovation in your business, supported by work practices to encourage employee participation, your business will move forward in line with customer demand, industry best practice, and benefit from improved profitability that's a result of considered growth. Most importantly, your team will be highly motivated, dedicated, and inspired to contribute to the success of your business, as well as your vision. A favorite of the elementary school classroom, the soda bottle bird feeder is a simple DIY project for bird lovers of all ages. After rescuing a 1 to 2 liter soda bottle from the recycling bin, look around your house or yard for 2 wooden spoons, dowels, or twigs you can use for the project. These will create a place for the birds to sit while they eat. The Hubble Space Telescope has been mankind's eyes into the ever-expanding universe for the last 25 years. The telescope has been responsible for capturing some of the most breathtaking images of the universe ever seen. Butterfly emerges from stellar demise in planetary nebula NGC 6302. What resemble the creature's dainty wings are actually roiling cauldrons of gas heated to more than 36,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The well-known source of energy, which is the solar energy, is an environment-friendly and endless renewable source of energy. Solar power doesn't result in the emission of harmful carbon dioxide, unlike the use of fossil fuels. The sun will be the unlimited source of energy, and with right technologies, can provide sufficient electricity that could be used in every single household. Solar energy is a renewable free source of energy that is sustainable and totally inexhaustible, unlike fossil fuels that are finite. It is also a non-polluting source of energy, and it does not emit any greenhouse gases when producing electricity. Using solar power means reducing your energy bills and saving money. Low maintenance and unobtrusive, installing solar panels adds value to your home. The American Marketing Association defines marketing as the activity, set of institutions and processes for creating, communicating, delivering and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. Marketing management is the function within an organization dedicated to this process. A marketing executive tasked with this function must adhere to the key principles of marketing management. Exercise for people in remission, both immediately after treatment and in the long term, is really important. Surviving cancer means you are at risk of several other chronic diseases, including diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Evidence tells us that exercise helps prevent these diseases, plus a growing body of evidence suggests exercise has a role to play in preventing the cancer coming back. Research shows that Australians who eat breakfast cereal have more nutritious diets than people who eat other breakfasts. The research compared people who ate breakfast cereals with people who ate other breakfasts. It found that the breakfast cereal eaters had the same daily energy intake, kilojoules, but significantly higher intakes of iron, calcium, fiber, folate, and magnesium. The general population may be less at risk for developing an eating disorder, but Summer Dirks warns anyone recovering from an eating disorder or those with a genetic predisposition against any form of fasting. And even if you don't fall under either category, it's still important to think about the reason you want to fast. The treatment of a common sleep disorder that causes sufferers to stop breathing could help to prevent dementia, Australian research has found. Obstructive sleep apnea occurs when muscles in the throat relax, causing the airway to block, which results in lower levels of oxygen in the blood. A new study indicates that oxygen deprivation may be linked to changes in the temporal lobes of the brain. Cruising to New Zealand is a well-established tradition. When the first settlers came here, it was by boat, and even up to the 1960s it was the only way to arrive in this country. Cruises to New Zealand today are, happily, a much more comfortable and luxurious experience. The most popular places for boarding a cruise to New Zealand are Australia and the South Pacific. In recent years, the annual meeting of the U.S. Soybean Export Group has been a celebratory affair, complete with a grand signing ceremony during which attendees committed to exporting billions of dollars of U.S. soybeans to China. But following months of escalating trade tensions, Chinese attendees at this year's confab in Kansas City last week carried a different message. China doesn't need U.S. soybeans. The Australian dollar is under pressure, opening the new trading week at the lowest level since early January 2017 on Monday. The combination of heightened trade tensions between the United States and Canada, further weakness in emerging market currencies, and month-end capital flows weighed on the Australian dollar on Friday, seeing the AUD fall below previous support at 72 cents. Since January 2 last year, wealth and income distribution, both individual and functional, in a market society is to an overwhelmingly high degree influenced by bargaining power, things that have relatively little to do with marginal productivity in complete and profit-maximizing competitive market models. If not outright impossible, it is to empirically disentangle and measure different individuals' contributions in the typical teamwork production that characterize modern societies. There's also a different kind of self-representation known as collectivism, and this cultural framework is more common in non-Western cultures, including populations from East Asian, African, and Middle Eastern countries. Collectivists tend to see themselves as more interdependent with others, interpersonal connections, and a holistic style of thinking. And studies are now showing that how individualistic or collectivistic we are can change. One of the Moon's biggest craters was created by an asteroid more than 250 kilometers, 150 miles, across, a study suggests. It smashed into the lunar surface about 3.8 billion years ago, forming Mare Imbrium, the feature also known as the right eye of the man in the Moon. Scientists say the asteroid was 3 times bigger than previously estimated. The normal fat cell exists primarily to store energy. The body will expand the number of fat cells and the size of fat cells to accommodate excess energy from high-calorie foods. It will even go so far as to start depositing fat cells on our muscles, liver and other organs to create space to store all this extra energy from calorie-rich diets. There are times in the year, change of season, holidays, when there's a slowdown in our social schedules, and it's not unusual to have a steady stream of gatherings with family and friends as people make time to connect with those closest to them. While for some it's a welcome break after a month of parties, for others it can be quite the opposite. IT seems like the world's most obvious answer to a quiz show question. One might presume the distinctive red and yellow letter emblazoned on the costume of one of history's most iconic action heroes stands for. But a quiz show question has revealed the true answer that only a mega fan of the comic book, television and film character might know. Demanding customers, increasing regulation and clunky IT systems are proving serious speed bumps for Australian companies who want to grow in the digital age. Lending is facing a particularly sensitive atmosphere because of the Banking Royal Commission. These were some of the views aired by participants at a recent business roundtable event, hosted by Fairfax Media and KPMG Enterprise, which discussed Australia's digital transformation. Because of widespread dissemination of false information, people often believe that cancer-causing carcinogens are hiding in the foods they consume and the appliances they use. But actually, it's unavoidable factors, age, genetics, and unhealthy habits, smoking, drinking, that are some of the most common cancer causes. With food and electronics playing almost no role whatsoever in causing the disease. Researchers are trying to identify the reasons behind the poor population growth of some of Africa's wild animals. A major focus is the endangered black rhino. What we've done has developed this toolkit to understand why species like black rhino might not be breeding very well. And if we could understand that, then we can inform management to alter the way the animals are being managed to increase reproduction. Firefighters battled throughout the night to extinguish the fire that began after the museum closed to the public on Sunday night. The 200-year-old institution contained 20 million items, including some brought to Brazil at the beginning of the 19th century. The museum was also home to a 12,000-year-old human skeleton, the oldest found on the continent. In a similar way, there are side effects to information technology in education settings, from childcare to the classroom to the lecture hall and beyond. The IT industry and educational policy makers repeatedly state that computers are good for learning, and therefore worthy of public investment. But numerous studies have showed no positive impact, or even negative effects. Aerosols are all around us. A stunning new map from NASA plots the millions of unseen particles swirling throughout the skies, showing everything from dust and sea salts to smoke from wildfires raging in the US and Canada. The map combines data from satellites and sensors on the ground, helping to reveal the exact location and intensity of different phenomena around the world. If you're really working to turn your grades around but you're not making any headway, try talking to your teacher. Set up a meeting after school or at lunch and explain your problem to them. You're trying to improve your grades, and other traditional methods aren't working. They might be better able to understand where you're struggling and help you find a way to overcome the problem. Tsunamis that affect the Australian coast are caused by subduction zone earthquakes in the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Subduction zones are tectonic plate boundaries where two plates converge and one plate is thrust beneath the other. In Australia, the northwest coast in Western Australia is more likely than the east or southwest coast to experience a tsunami due to its proximity to the Indonesia tectonic plate boundary. How does same-sex marriage affect anyone other than same-sex people? It doesn't. It simply doesn't. Those who oppose it do so for their own personal reasons, which really they should just keep to themselves. Their objections are as relevant and worthy of public debate as are the reasons for my ambivalence about Vegemite. We should refuse to allow ourselves to be manipulated into arguing about irrelevancies. A rare fossil believed to be from South Australia's only known dinosaur is shedding new light on the turkey-sized creature, with the opalized toe bone resurfacing on the internet after disappearing for almost 5 decades. The fossilized bones were originally found in South Australia's outback in sediments from the early Cretaceous period, about 110 million years ago. The English Revolution has been interpreted in several ways by historians, as a fight between the aristocratic Cavaliers, who were open to life, and the serious Puritans, as a battle for power between Parliament and the monarchy over the rights of Englishmen that had been going on for centuries, and as a class war similar to the French Revolution, of which it was a forerunner. Humans just got one more reason to journey to outer space. There's a rare asteroid the size of Massachusetts orbiting between Mars and Jupiter, and it's worth an estimated $10,000 quadrillion. The rarity, known as 16 Psyche, was actually discovered back in 1852. One could argue that all the fame and glory of the modern-day America's Cup goes to the sailors, and beyond that, the helmsmen and faces of the respective franchise. But each and every one of these sailors will agree they're only as good as the platform they've been given, and in doing so, they'll point to their design team brain trust that employ complex design and engineering programs. The Metropolitan Museum of Art is one of the greatest museums in the world. It is an enormous place that takes up 5 city blocks and has more than 2 million square feet of space, filled with treasures everywhere the eye can see. There are exquisite vases, jewelry, baseball cards, Egyptian mummies, sculptures, and furniture, and many of the most famous and recognized paintings in the world. Brown bears near the Gulf of Alaska reach huge sizes because of their nourishing salmon diet. Each summer, throngs of fish swim upriver, migrating from the ocean to reproduce in the same stream or lake where they were born. The carnivore droppings and fish carcasses transfer a tremendous amount of nutrients to plants and invertebrates, enriching the entire ecosystem. For some people, they are an insurance policy against a less than perfect diet. Others take them because they can't, or won't, eat certain foods. Whatever the reasons, popping vitamin and mineral supplements can feel like a virtuous shortcut to a healthy life. But in recent months, serious doubts have been raised over whether they are actually any good for us.